How to stop overthinking and finally be present is not a question of intelligence, willpower, or motivation. It is a question of where attention is trained to live. Overthinking begins when attention leaves reality and enters imagination. The mind starts solving problems that are not happening, replaying moments that are already over, and rehearsing futures that may never arrive. This feels productive, but it is only movement without direction. Overthinking is not deep thinking. Deep thinking moves toward clarity and action. Overthinking moves in circles. It repeats the same questions with different wording, hoping repetition will produce certainty. It never does. The mind is trying to protect you, but it does not know when to stop. If it is not trained, it will run endlessly. Presence does not require stopping thought. It requires stopping obedience to thought. Thoughts arise on their own. You do not choose them. What you choose is whether to follow them. The moment a thought appears, awareness can either chase it or watch it. Watching breaks the cycle. Chasing feeds it. The mind cannot be reasoned out of overthinking while you are inside it. You cannot use thought to fix a problem created by thought. The exit is not higher thinking but grounded awareness. And awareness lives in the present moment, not in mental stories. The body is the doorway back. Right now, your body is not in the past or future. It is breathing. It is supported by the ground. It is responding to this moment. When attention returns to physical sensation, the mind loses its grip. This is not escape. It is return. Feel your breath without controlling it. Notice the rise and fall. Feel the weight of your body. This simple act interrupts overthinking because it shifts attention from imagination to experience. Experience is always now. Silence is another teacher. Overthinking survives on noise, both external and internal. When noise fades, overthinking has nowhere to hide. At first, silence feels uncomfortable because it exposes unresolved tension. Stay anyway. Clarity does not arrive through force. It arrives through stillness. Discipline is essential. Not harsh discipline, but consistent practice. Overthinking thrives in chaos. Presence grows in structure. Simple routines calm the mind. Waking up at the same time, moving the body, limiting unnecessary stimulation. These actions reduce mental overload before it begins. Presence is not achieved once and kept forever. It is practiced daily. You will lose it. That is not failure. The moment you notice you are overthinking, presence has already returned. Awareness of distraction is awareness. Stop trying to eliminate overthinking. That struggle becomes another form of overthinking. Instead, stop feeding it. Each time you return attention to the body, the breath, or the task in front of you, you weaken the habit. Overthinking is fear dressed as responsibility. It says, if I think enough, nothing bad will happen. But life does not respond to worry. It responds to action and presence. When you are present, you respond instead of react. You see clearly instead of assuming. Presence simplifies life. Problems become smaller because they are handled one at a time. Decisions become clearer because they are made from reality, not fear. Energy returns because it is no longer wasted on imagined scenarios. You do not need to control the mind. You need to train it. Training happens through repetition. Return attention again and again. Gently, without judgment. The mind learns what you repeatedly show it. Stop waiting for the perfect moment to be present. This moment is the only one available. Feel your breath. Feel your body. Listen without planning your response. Act without hesitation. Overthinking keeps you stuck in preparation. Presence moves you into participation. Life is not asking you to figure it out endlessly. It is asking you to show up. The present moment is not empty. It is full of information, stability, and direction. When you stop overthinking, you do not lose control. You gain clarity. Stand where you are. Breathe where you are. Do what is in front of you fully. Let thoughts come and go without following them. Over time, the mind quiets not because you forced it to, but because it learned it no longer needs to shout to be heard. Presence is not something you find. It is something you return to. Again and again, overthinking is not intelligence. It is often mistaken for depth, caution, or awareness, but in reality, it is the mind trapped in repetition. Intelligence moves forward, evaluates, decides, and adapts. Overthinking circles the same ground endlessly, not to gain clarity, but to avoid uncertainty. It feels productive because it is active, yet it produces nothing except mental fatigue. The mind convinces itself that more thinking will bring safety, but safety never comes, only more questions. True intelligence knows when to think and when to stop. Overthinking does not know this boundary. It treats every possibility as equally urgent, every scenario as equally likely. This creates a false sense of responsibility, as if thinking harder can control outcomes. But control is an illusion here. The future does not bend to anxiety, and the past does not change through rumination. Intelligence understands limits, overthinking ignores them. At its core, overthinking is driven by fear, fear of making the wrong choice, fear of being judged, fear of losing control. The mind keeps replaying situations, conversations, and imagined futures in an attempt to prevent pain. Yet this constant mental rehearsal only amplifies the very discomfort it tries to avoid. Instead of preparing the person for life, it disconnects them from it. Intelligence engages with reality as it is. Overthinking replaces reality with endless mental simulations. There is also a confusion between awareness and hypervigilance. Awareness is calm, observant, and grounded. Hypervigilance is tense and exhausting. Overthinking belongs to the second category. It scans for problems even when none exist, interpreting neutral situations as threats. This is not insight, it is the nervous system stuck in survival mode. Intelligence can observe without panic. Overthinking reacts before observation is complete. Many people wear overthinking as a badge of honor. They say they are just being careful, thorough, or analytical. But analysis has direction. It leads to understanding and action. Overthinking lacks direction. It postpones action indefinitely. Decisions feel impossible because every option branches into countless imagined consequences. The mind becomes so busy calculating risk that it forgets to live. Intelligence accepts that no decision comes with total certainty. Overthinking demands certainty before moving, which means it never truly moves. Another sign that overthinking is not intelligence is how disconnected it is from the body. Intelligence integrates thought with sensation, emotion, and experience. Overthinking exists almost entirely in abstraction. The body may be tense, breathing shallow, shoulders tight, yet the mind keeps running as if detached from physical reality. This separation is costly. When the body is ignored, signals of stress accumulate. Fatigue, irritability, and burnout follow, further reducing clarity rather than enhancing it. Overthinking also distorts time. The present moment becomes invisible while the mind lives in imagined futures or reconstructed pasts. Intelligence values the present because it is the only place where information is real and usable. Overthinking treats the present as insufficient, always looking elsewhere for answers. But answers do not exist in hypothetical scenarios. They emerge through engagement, feedback, and adjustment. Intelligence learns by doing. Overthinking avoids doing in favor of endless preparation. There is also an emotional cost. Overthinking often leads to self-criticism. Every thought is questioned, every feeling analyzed, every reaction judged. This constant self-monitoring erodes confidence. Intelligence builds trust in one's ability to respond to life as it unfolds. Overthinking assumes incompetence, as if without constant supervision the person will fail. This assumption becomes a self-fulfilling cycle, weakening intuition and decision-making over time. Silence exposes the difference clearly. An intelligent mind can rest. An overthinking mind resists stillness. When external distractions fade, unresolved fears surface, and the mind rushes to fill the space. This discomfort is often mistaken for depth, but it is simply unprocessed tension. Intelligence does not fear silence because it does not equate quiet with danger. Overthinking equates quiet with loss of control. Discipline plays a crucial role here. Not rigid discipline, but consistent structure. When daily habits are stable, the mind has less room to spiral. Overthinking thrives in chaos and excess choice. Intelligence simplifies. It reduces variables where possible and focuses energy where it matters. This is why clarity often comes after action, not before it. Movement organizes thought. Stillness without awareness allows thought to multiply uncontrollably. Overthinking also misunderstands responsibility. It assumes that worrying is a form of care, but care is effective only when paired with action or acceptance. Worry without movement helps no one. Intelligence knows when something can be influenced and when it must be released. Overthinking refuses to release, clinging to the illusion that constant attention equals control. Ultimately, overthinking is not a sign of a powerful mind, but of a mind that has not learned to rest. Intelligence includes restraint. It includes trust. It includes the ability to say, this is enough information for now. Without that ability, thinking becomes noise, and noise cannot guide. A mind that never pauses cannot hear what actually matters, cannot sense timing, cannot respond naturally. It becomes trapped in its own echo, repeating questions long after life has already moved forward, replaying possibilities while opportunities pass, mistaking mental activity for wisdom, mistaking tension for insight, mistaking fear for foresight, continuing to think not because thinking is needed, but because stopping feels unfamiliar, and in that unfamiliar space the mind has not yet learned how to stand still and simply be present with what is already here. The mind must be trained, not obeyed. Most people live as if every thought that appears is a command that must be followed, questioned, or acted upon. This creates a life driven by impulse rather than intention. Thoughts arise automatically, shaped by memory, habit, fear, and conditioning. They are not always accurate, helpful, or necessary. Obedience to every thought leads to confusion because the mind does not prioritize truth. It prioritizes survival and familiarity. Training the mind begins with understanding its nature. The mind is a tool designed to solve problems, recognize patterns, and protect the individual from danger. When left untrained, it continues doing these functions even when no threat exists. It searches for problems to justify its activity. This constant scanning creates anxiety and restlessness. Obedience strengthens this pattern. Every time a thought is believed without examination, the mind learns that noise equals importance. A trained mind does not eliminate thoughts. It learns to observe them without immediate reaction. Observation creates distance. Distance creates choice. Without distance, reaction is automatic. The thought appears, emotion follows, behavior follows. This chain feels inevitable, but it is learned. Training interrupts this process by slowing it down, not suppressing thought, but allowing it to pass without attachment. Many people confuse training with control. Control is forceful and exhausting. Training is gradual and patient. It is repetition with awareness. Just as the body grows stronger through consistent practice, the mind becomes steadier through repeated redirection. Each time attention is brought back from distraction, the mind is being trained. This redirection is quiet and subtle, yet powerful over time. Obedience to the mind often feels justified because thoughts sound convincing. They speak in familiar voices, often using logic or emotion to demand attention. But convincing does not mean correct. The mind can argue both sides endlessly. Training teaches discernment. It allows the individual to ask whether a thought is useful right now, rather than whether it is loud. Utility becomes more important than urgency. Discomfort is unavoidable in training. When the mind is no longer obeyed, it resists. It produces stronger thoughts, emotional reactions, and distractions. This resistance is not failure. It is evidence that the habit is being challenged. Obedience feels easier in the short term because it avoids this friction. Training requires staying present through discomfort without giving in to impulse. The body plays a central role in this process. Attention anchored in physical sensations stabilizes the mind. Breath, posture, and movement provide immediate feedback. When attention drifts into uncontrolled thinking, the body is often ignored. Training restores this connection. It brings awareness back to what is tangible and immediate. The body does not argue or exaggerate. It communicates directly. Consistency matters more than intensity. Training the mind is not achieved through rare moments of insight, but through daily practice. Short, regular periods of focused attention are more effective than occasional effort. Each repetition strengthens awareness. Each moment of noticing distraction builds skill. Over time, the mind learns that it does not need to dominate every moment. Obedience to the mind often leads to identity fusion. Thoughts are mistaken for self. When a thought says, "I am not enough," it is believed as truth rather than recognized as an event in consciousness. Training creates separation between the observer and the content. This separation weakens the emotional charge. Thoughts lose authority when they are seen rather than believed. Silence reveals the difference between training and obedience. In silence, an untrained mind becomes restless, searching for stimulation or narrative. A trained mind can remain present without needing to fill the space. This stillness is not emptiness, but stability. It allows perception without commentary. Intelligence emerges naturally when noise subsides. Training the mind also reshapes reaction to emotion. Emotions are powerful signals, but they are temporary. Obedience treats them as commands. Training treats them as information. This shift prevents impulsive action and regret. Feeling anger does not require acting on it. Feeling fear does not require retreat. Awareness creates choice. The environment influences mental habits. Excessive input overwhelms the mind and weakens attention. Training includes reducing unnecessary stimulation. Simplicity supports clarity. When fewer signals compete for attention, the mind settles more easily. This is not deprivation, but intentional focus. Over time, a trained mind becomes quieter, not because thoughts disappear, but because attention is no longer pulled in every direction. The individual responds instead of reacts. Decisions become clearer. Energy is conserved. The mind serves its purpose rather than dominating experience. Obedience drains energy. Training restores it. This process is ongoing. The mind does not remain trained without practice. Old habits return when attention is neglected. This is not a problem, but a reminder. Training is not about perfection, but about return. Each return strengthens awareness. Freedom does not come from having no thoughts, but from not being controlled by them. A trained mind listens, evaluates, and chooses. An obedient mind follows automatically. The difference determines whether life is lived consciously or mechanically. Training builds inner authority. Obedience hands that authority to mental noise. The direction of life is shaped not by the presence of thought, but by the relationship to it, by whether the mind is allowed to lead without question or guided with steady awareness. Practice daily through attention, patience, and the willingness to stay present, even when the mind demands otherwise. Your body is always in the present. While the mind travels endlessly through memory and imagination, the body remains here, responding only to what is actually happening. It does not replay yesterday or anticipate tomorrow. It breathes now, balances now, feels now. This makes the body a reliable anchor when awareness is scattered. No matter how far the mind wanders, the body does not leave the moment. Most people live disconnected from this reality. Attention is absorbed by thoughts, screens, and inner dialogue, leaving the body functioning in the background. Posture collapses, breathing becomes shallow, tension accumulates unnoticed. The body adapts quietly, but the cost is paid later through fatigue, stress, and discomfort. Presence fades not because it is lost, but because it is ignored. The body communicates constantly through sensation, tightness, warmth, pressure, rhythm. These signals are immediate and honest. They do not exaggerate or speculate. When attention returns to sensation, the nervous system begins to settle. The mind slows because it no longer needs to invent stories to explain experience. Sensation replaces interpretation. Breathing is the most direct bridge. It happens without instruction, yet responds instantly to awareness. When attention rests on the breath, thinking loses momentum. This is not suppression. Thought fades naturally when attention is grounded. The body does not demand answers. It simply continues its rhythm. Movement deepens this connection. Walking, stretching, or standing with awareness brings attention out of abstraction and into direct experience. Each step exists only in the present. Balance cannot be achieved in the future or corrected in the past. The body adjusts moment by moment. This constant adjustment trains awareness without words. Emotions are also felt in the body before they are named by the mind. A tightening in the chest, a heaviness in the stomach, heat in the face. When these sensations are noticed early, emotions pass more easily. When ignored, the mind builds narratives around them, prolonging discomfort. The body feels and releases. The mind holds and repeats. Pain reveals the present sharply. It cannot be postponed or analyzed away. While pain is often avoided, it demonstrates the body's honesty. It signals boundaries and needs. Awareness of discomfort without resistance often reduces suffering. Resistance adds tension. Acceptance allows release. The body also reveals truth during stress. When the mind insists everything is fine, the body shows otherwise. Jaw clenches, shoulders rise, breath shortens. These signs are not weakness. They are feedback. Listening restores balance. Ignoring them deepens imbalance. Presence through the body does not require special conditions. It is available during ordinary activities. Washing hands, eating, standing in line. Attention to sensation transforms routine into grounding. Life becomes immediate rather than conceptual. The mind learns to rest because the body provides enough information. Modern life encourages disembodiment. Constant stimulation pulls attention outward and upward, away from physical awareness. The result is restlessness and fatigue. Returning to the body counteracts this trend. It brings attention back to something stable and real. The body is not concerned with identity or story. It does not care who you think you are. It responds to gravity, temperature, movement. This simplicity is grounding. When identity feels unstable, sensation remains reliable. Training awareness through the body builds resilience. When challenges arise, attention returns to breath and posture. This stabilizes response. Instead of being overwhelmed by thought, the body offers a point of balance. Action becomes measured rather than reactive. The body also teaches limits. Fatigue, hunger, tension signal the need to pause. Respecting these signals prevents burnout. Ignoring them leads to collapse. Presence includes listening. Stillness reveals subtle sensation. When the body is allowed to be still, small movements become noticeable. Heartbeat, breath, internal shifts. Attention sharpens. The present becomes rich rather than dull. There is no need to analyze sensation. Labeling is optional. Feeling is enough. Sensation exists without explanation. This simplicity quiets the mind. When attention rests here, time feels less urgent. Moments unfold naturally. The body ages, changes, and eventually declines, but it never leaves the present. This constancy is its gift. Awareness anchored here becomes steady. Thought becomes a tool rather than a distraction. Trust in the body grows with attention. It carries wisdom shaped by experience. Reflexes, coordination, intuition operate faster than thought. Presence allows access to this intelligence. When attention returns to the body, the mind follows. Not immediately, but gradually. Thoughts slow because they are no longer fed. The body requires no commentary. It simply is. This return is always available. No matter how lost in thought, sensation waits. Feet on the ground, breath in the chest, hands touching an object. Each sensation is an invitation back. The present moment is not something to be achieved. It is entered through attention. The body opens that door continuously. By listening to sensation, awareness settles. Life is experienced directly rather than through mental projection. The body stands here, steady and patient, offering presence without effort, asking only that attention return from wandering thoughts to the simple reality of being alive right now. Silence is not empty, it is where clarity lives. Many people avoid silence because they associate it with absence, loneliness, or discomfort. In reality, silence removes what's unnecessary, so what is essential can be seen. Noise distracts, fills space, and numbs awareness. Silence reveals. When external and internal noise fades, perception sharpens. What remains is not void but presence. The mind is accustomed to constant input. Words, music, notifications, inner dialogue. This stream creates a sense of movement and control. Silence interrupts this pattern. At first, the interruption feels unsettling because it exposes what has been ignored. Unresolved thoughts surface. Emotions rise. This is not caused by silence. Silence simply removes the cover. Clarity does not arrive through accumulation. It arrives through subtraction. When excess thought, opinion, and distraction fall away, understanding becomes simple. Silence allows the mind to settle naturally. It does not force calm. It makes calm possible. There is a difference between quiet and silence. Quiet is the absence of sound. Silence is the absence of unnecessary mental activity. A room can be quiet while the mind is loud. True silence exists when attention rests without commentary. This state cannot be forced. It emerges when effort relaxes. In silence, perception becomes direct. Instead of interpreting experience, awareness observes it. This shift changes the quality of attention. Rather than chasing meaning, meaning reveals itself. Insight appears without strain. Silence exposes habits of thought. Without distraction, repetitive patterns become obvious. Worries repeat, judgments echo, planning loops continue. Seeing these patterns clearly weakens them. Awareness dissolves what resistance strengthens. Many confuse silence with passivity. In truth, silence is active presence. It listens without interruption. It allows understanding to form without distortion. Decisions made from silence are grounded. Reactions from noise are impulsive. The body responds to silence quickly. Breathing deepens. Muscles release. The nervous system shifts from alertness to balance. This physical settling supports mental clarity. When the body is at ease, the mind follows. Nature demonstrates silence naturally. Mountains, forests, open sky. Even when sound exists, there is spaciousness. This spaciousness calms perception. Human systems respond to it instinctively. Silence reconnects attention to this rhythm. Inner silence is not the absence of thought, but the absence of identification with thought. Thoughts may arise, but they pass without attachment. Like clouds in open space, space remains unchanged. Silence also reveals intuition. When noise dominates, intuition is drowned out. In silence, subtle signals become noticeable. A sense of direction, a feeling of alignment. These signals are quiet by nature. They require stillness to be heard. Fear often arises in silence because the mind loses distraction. Without stimulation, it confronts uncertainty. This discomfort is temporary. Staying present through it allows the mind to relax. Silence becomes familiar rather than threatening. Speech gains power through silence. Words spoken from stillness carry weight. They are precise and intentional. Constant talking weakens meaning. Silence gives language depth. Creativity emerges from silence. Ideas form in open space, not in clutter. When the mind is crowded, originality is blocked. Silence clears room for insight. Silence also teaches patience. It removes the urge to rush. Without constant input, time slows. Awareness expands. This patience supports wiser action. The practice of silence does not require isolation. It can exist in daily life, moments of pause between actions, awareness without commentary during routine tasks. These small spaces accumulate. Technology competes directly with silence. Continuous stimulation fragments attention. Intentional silence restores coherence. This restoration is not withdrawal but balance. In silence, identity loosens. Labels and roles fade. Awareness exists without description. This state is stable and grounded. It does not depend on validation. Silence reveals what truly matters. Without distraction, priorities become clear. What is unnecessary loses grip. Clarity is not created, it is uncovered. Stillness sharpens listening, not only to others but to oneself. Needs become clear. Limits are felt. Direction emerges. Silence is not an escape from life. It is a return to it. When noise drops, experience becomes vivid. Colors sharpen, sensations deepen. Presence strengthens. The mind fears silence because it cannot dominate it. Silence does not argue or explain. It simply holds space. In that space, truth surfaces naturally. Clarity lives in silence because silence allows reality to speak without interference. When the mind stops insisting, understanding arises. Silence supports awareness without effort. It stands quietly beneath all experience, steady and available, waiting for attention to rest and discover that nothing is missing. That within the absence of noise there is fullness, depth, and a natural order that reveals itself when the mind no longer tries to fill every moment with sound, thought, or explanation. Discipline creates freedom from mental chaos because it gives the mind structure where it would otherwise scatter. Chaos is not caused by having too many responsibilities or challenges, but by the absence of clear order in how attention, energy, and time are used. Without discipline, the mind reacts to everything at once. Every thought feels urgent, every emotion feels dominant, every distraction feels irresistible. Discipline does not remove thoughts or emotions, it organizes the relationship with them. Many people misunderstand discipline as restriction. They imagine rules, pressure, and punishment. In reality, discipline is alignment. It is deciding in advance what matters and consistently acting in accordance with that decision. When this alignment is absent, the mind is pulled in conflicting directions. One part wants rest, another seeks stimulation, another fears falling behind. This internal conflict is experienced as mental noise. Discipline resolves conflict by creating clear priorities. Mental chaos thrives on unpredictability. When daily routines change constantly, the mind remains on alert, scanning for what comes next. This constant adjustment exhausts attention. Discipline introduces rhythm. Waking up at a consistent time, moving the body regularly, eating with awareness, setting boundaries around work and rest. These patterns reduce decision fatigue. When fewer decisions are required, the mind becomes quieter. Discipline also limits excess input. The modern environment overwhelms attention with information. Without discipline, the mind consumes endlessly, mistaking stimulation for engagement. This overload fragments focus. Discipline chooses what to let in and what to refuse. This refusal is not deprivation, but protection. Attention is preserved rather than scattered. Consistency is more important than intensity. Small, repeated actions shape mental stability more than occasional bursts of effort. Discipline works gradually. Each time a habit is honored, trust builds. The mind learns that it does not need to constantly negotiate. This trust reduces inner argument and doubt. Mental chaos often comes from postponed action. Tasks avoided linger in the background, creating tension. Discipline addresses this directly. Acting when action is required clears mental space. Even simple completion brings relief. Clarity follows movement. Discipline strengthens focus by training attention. Focusing on one task at a time reduces mental noise. Multitasking fragments awareness. Discipline resists this temptation. It chooses depth over speed. This choice calms the mind. Emotional regulation is also supported by discipline. Regular sleep, movement, and nourishment stabilize the nervous system. Without these foundations, emotions fluctuate wildly. Discipline does not suppress emotion. It creates conditions where emotions can pass without overwhelming the system. The mind resists discipline initially because chaos feels familiar. Familiarity is mistaken for comfort. Discipline introduces discomfort by challenging habits. This discomfort is temporary. As patterns stabilize, resistance fades. Freedom emerges when discipline removes unnecessary struggle. When routines handle basic needs, attention is freed for creativity and connection. The mind no longer wastes energy deciding what to do next. Space opens. Discipline also clarifies identity. Repeated actions shape self-trust. When commitments are kept, confidence grows. Doubt decreases. The mind becomes steadier because it no longer questions reliability. Boundaries are an expression of discipline. Saying no prevents overload. Without boundaries, obligations pile up, creating mental clutter. Discipline defines limits and protects them. Silence benefits from discipline. Without structure, attempts at stillness collapse into distraction. Discipline supports silence by reducing restlessness. When the body is cared for and routines are stable, stillness becomes accessible. Discipline transforms time perception. When days are structured, time feels spacious. Without structure, time feels scarce. Mental chaos thrives in the feeling of being rushed. The body responds positively to discipline. Regular movement releases tension. Consistent rest restores balance. This physical stability supports mental clarity. Discipline is not rigid. It adapts when needed. Rigidity creates stress. True discipline is responsive, not controlling. It serves awareness rather than suppressing it. When discipline is absent, motivation is relied upon. Motivation fluctuates. Discipline remains. This reliability stabilizes the mind. Over time, discipline reduces mental noise by reducing regret. Actions aligned with values leave less room for self-criticism. The mind rests easier when integrity is maintained. Freedom is not the ability to do anything at any moment. That leads to impulse and chaos. Freedom is the ability to choose wisely and follow through. Discipline enables this ability. Mental chaos often disguises itself as complexity. Discipline simplifies. It removes excess. What remains is manageable. Discipline creates momentum. Small wins accumulate. Confidence grows. The mind becomes oriented toward progress rather than worry. Without discipline, even rest becomes restless. With discipline, rest is restorative. The mind knows when it is time to stop. Discipline trains patience. Results are not demanded instantly. This patience calms urgency. The mind begins to trust the process. Anxiety decreases. Structure supports creativity rather than limiting it. When the basics are handled, imagination flows freely. Discipline reduces internal negotiation. Fewer arguments mean less noise. Clarity becomes the default rather than the exception. Mental chaos feeds on inconsistency. Discipline starves it. The disciplined mind is not empty, but ordered. Energy flows where attention is stable. Freedom emerges quietly, not as excitement, but as ease. The mind learns to rest within structure, to move without friction, to respond instead of react, to experience space between thoughts, to operate with direction rather than compulsion, to settle into a rhythm that supports clarity, stability, and presence without needing constant stimulation or reassurance, allowing awareness to function without being pulled apart by endless demands, distractions, and unresolved impulses. As order replaces noise and steadiness replaces strain, presence is a daily practice, not a one-time insight. Many people search for a moment of realization that will permanently free them from distraction, anxiety, and inner conflict. They imagine a breakthrough that will fix the mind once and for all. But presence does not work this way. Insight can open the door, but practice is what keeps it open. Without practice, insight fades into memory, becoming another concept rather than a lived experience. The mind is shaped by repetition. It has spent years rehearsing distraction, judgment, planning, and worry. Expecting one moment of awareness to undo these patterns is unrealistic. Presence must be reinforced daily, because the habits that pull attention away are also active daily. This is not a failure of understanding, but the nature of conditioning. Practice meets conditioning with consistency rather than force. Presence is not something added to life. It is revealed when attention returns to what is already happening. This return must happen again and again. Each time attention wanders, practice begins anew. The value lies not in staying present indefinitely, but in noticing when presence is lost and gently returning. This noticing is the core of practice. Many people abandon practice because they expect permanence. When distraction returns, they assume they are doing something wrong. In truth, distraction is expected. The mind moves. Practice is the willingness to meet this movement without frustration. Patience sustains presence more than effort. Daily life provides endless opportunities for practice. Ordinary moments are the training ground. Breathing, walking, listening, eating. Presence does not require special conditions. It requires attention. When attention is brought to simple actions, awareness strengthens. Over time, this awareness begins to extend naturally into more challenging situations. Presence is weakened by excess stimulation. Constant input fragments attention. Practice includes creating space. This may mean pauses between tasks, moments of silence, or reducing unnecessary distractions. These choices support presence by giving the mind room to settle. The body is a constant ally in daily practice. Sensation anchors awareness. Breath, posture, movement. Returning attention to the body interrupts mental wandering. This return can happen dozens of times a day. Each return reinforces presence. Emotions test practice. Strong feelings pull attention into narrative and reaction. Presence does not remove emotion. It allows emotion to be felt without losing awareness. This requires repetition. Each emotional moment becomes a lesson in staying present under pressure. Presence deepens through routine. Consistent times for stillness, movement, and reflection support awareness. These routines reduce mental chaos and create a stable foundation. Practice becomes part of daily rhythm rather than an isolated activity. Insight often arrives suddenly. Practice develops slowly. Insight excites the mind. Practice trains it. Without practice, insight becomes another memory the mind clings to. With practice, insight is embodied. Presence is not always calm. Sometimes it includes discomfort, boredom, or restlessness. Practice means staying rather than escaping. This staying builds resilience. Awareness grows stronger when it remains steady through difficulty. The mind resists practice because practice removes distraction. Distraction provides relief from discomfort. Presence asks for honesty. This honesty can feel challenging. Over time, it becomes liberating. Practice is supported by simplicity. When life is cluttered, presence struggles. Simplifying commitments, spaces, and routines makes practice easier. This is not withdrawal, but clarity. Presence is relational. It affects how others are experienced. Listening becomes deeper. Responses become more thoughtful. These changes emerge gradually through practice. Daily practice shifts identity. Instead of identifying with thoughts, identification moves toward awareness itself. This shift is subtle and cumulative. It does not happen in a single moment. Presence fades when neglected. This is natural. Practice resumes when remembered. There is no penalty for forgetting, only the opportunity to return. Practice transforms time. Moments feel fuller. Urgency softens. The present becomes sufficient. This sufficiency reduces the constant reaching for more. Presence does not eliminate planning or memory. It changes their place. They become tools rather than distractions. Practice teaches when to engage them and when to let them rest. Discipline supports daily practice. Not rigid control, but gentle consistency. Short, regular periods of attention are more effective than occasional intensity. Presence is lived, not achieved. It is expressed in how attention is placed moment by moment. Practice keeps this placement intentional. Every day resets the opportunity. Yesterday's presence does not guarantee today's. This is not discouraging. It is grounding. Practice belongs to now. The simplicity of presence is deceptive. It requires commitment, not dramatic effort, but steady return. Practice reveals progress quietly. Less reactivity, more space between thought and action. These changes accumulate unnoticed until clarity becomes familiar. Presence matures through humility. Knowing that attention will wander removes self-judgment. Practice becomes kind rather than forceful. Life itself becomes the teacher. Each distraction invites return. Each return strengthens awareness. Presence remains alive only through use. Like a muscle, it strengthens with repetition and weakens with neglect. Daily practice integrates awareness into living rather than separating it as a special state. The present moment is always available, but attention is not always here. Practice aligns the two repeatedly. This alignment is never finished. It continues as long as life unfolds. Presence does not promise perfection. It offers participation. The value lies not in holding presence, but in choosing it again and again, in ordinary moments, through habit and intention, allowing awareness to deepen naturally through repetition, patience, and daily engagement with what is already happening, shaping a life that is lived directly, rather than remembered or anticipated, sustained not by sudden realization, but by the quiet strength of continual return to now.